Welcome into the Broncos studio. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, alongside lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. Christmas has come early. The NFL announced that Denver will play in primetime on Christmas Day against Kansas City. The Broncos hope to hand the Chiefs a lump of coal at Arrowhead. This will be a Thursday night football showdown on Prime Video. I feel like Santa delivering this news to Broncos Country. I mean, we're dressed up and everything.
We got the hats on. We got the decorations. This is great. I love this. I think for the Broncos to be able to play in a standalone game like this, primetime football on Christmas Day, it's exciting, and I think it speaks to where the Broncos are now, right? And we heard Sean Payton just this last weekend say that when you play well, you get a few more primetime games. Obviously, the full schedule comes out in 2 days, and we'll see how many primetime games the Broncos end up with. But this is an example of the networks, the league, fans wanting to see this Denver Broncos team and to get to do it against a division rival in the Kansas City Chiefs, try to win at Arrowhead for the first time since 2015. There's a lot to be excited about here, and it's going to be a fun one to cover for sure.
Well, the Broncos played on TNF twice last year, both a 1-1 record on the road. This is the fifth time the Broncos are playing on Christmas. All have been on the road. Such an exciting time. But you mentioned it, and I think you hit it on the head. People want to see this. You're not going to put matchups that people don't want to see. It's nice to see the fact that this team likes the spotlight. They like to, showcase what they can do on the field. And I think last year when you were able to see, those were some pretty exciting games that we saw.
Yeah, definitely. Like you mentioned, 2 games on Thursday Night Football last year. And I think the one against the Chargers in particular can kind of help Denver this year for this game that was obviously late in the season against the Chargers. The Broncos got flexed in. And the way they approached that game, obviously, they were able to jump out to an early lead, weren't able to close it out. But I think having that experience is helpful of knowing late in the year, how do we get our bodies right? How do we get ready for this matchup? I think that's an advantage for the Broncos. Obviously, the Chiefs, they know how to do it too, right? Last year they played on Saturday Christmas, and then they played Wednesday on Christmas Day, and they've played on Christmas a few times here. It's kind of not officially their thing, but they're starting to play more and more on Christmas, and so both teams I think will know how to deal with this. But you're right, from a spotlight standpoint, right? Like if you want to compete for championships, you're going to play in these big games. You're going to play on big stages.
All eyes on you.
That's right. And so I think for a team that got a taste of it last year, this is kind of that natural next step.
Well, Christmas cookies and football, I feel like, just go together. And when you look at this matchup in particular, the Broncos have won 2 of the last 3. Obviously, one of the games that comes to mind is the one at Arrowhead where it came down to the last second. Obviously, a heartbreaker there for the Broncos. But you almost want that redemption feeling of being able to go back and do it on this stage. And playing on Christmas is one thing. Playing on the road is another, especially against a division rival like this. Yeah,
you mentioned it. The Broncos, 2 of their last 3 against the Chiefs, they've won, including that 38-0 win that clinched a playoff berth in Week 18 last year.
That's a nice score.
It's a nice score. It was fun. We had fun. But the one you mentioned there, at Arrowhead, the Broncos, they march down the field. They have this long drive. They set up a game-winning field goal attempt. Obviously, we know it didn't end the way the Broncos wanted, but I think they proved to themselves that they could go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead. Bo Nix can put himself in some elite company. Very few Broncos quarterbacks have ever won a road game at Arrowhead in December, so it's going to be a challenge. But I think if you look big picture at what the Broncos have said they want to accomplish this year, they put winning the AFC West right up there with all their goals. Greg Penner said it at the end of the season. Sean Payton said it. And so you want to do that? Here's an opportunity to go to Arrowhead late in the year, try to knock off the defending division champions who have won the division every year since the Broncos last took it and took Super Bowl 50 in 2015. So if the Broncos want to wrestle that back, this is the time to go do it, to go prove that. And then I think maybe an added benefit here is that you get that long weekend going into Week 18. And based on, we obviously haven't seen the full schedule yet, but the way that the schedule has worked the last however many years is you finish with a division opponent. And so you're likely finishing with the Raiders or the Chargers, and now you get a little bit extra time to get ready for that game. And who knows, maybe you need to beat the Chargers in Week 18 to win the AFC West. And so or maybe you need to knock off the Raiders to clinch a playoff berth. Like, those both are going to be important games. So finishing likely with 2 division games it's exciting. And I think to have that chance on Christmas to go to Arrowhead, we saw the Broncos break a lot of curses, break a lot of streaks right over the last few years. Here's another one. Go win a game at Arrowhead and do it in a big stage.
Yeah, and when I think back to that game, I also remember when Sean Payton mentioned that after that matchup, Patrick Mahomes went up to him and kind of told him, like, you got a good one over there. And that's high praise coming from someone. Obviously, that was a moment between them after the match. Sean Payton talked about it the week after. That doesn't come lightly. And so when you have a fellow competitor, obviously, we know what Patrick Mahomes is capable of. When you have a guy like that, give that head nod to the rookie. And at that point, you weren't sure how the season was going to play out. Obviously, Bo went on to have a great rest of the year. And now you have that again. And that's what we talked about, I believe, when that happened. We said, like, is this the start of something? Is this the start of just like these fun matchups where you're going to see this in the AFC West, where you're having these just great games coming down to the wire, and obviously the Broncos want to come out on top this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we talk about it. What's important? It's getting the win. And obviously, Christmas will feel a little bit better if the Broncos are able to. You wrap up Christmas with watching the Broncos get a win. That would be terrific. But I think you're right. The way Bo Nix has played last year and going into the year 2, you hope to see him in a lot of games like this as we move forward. But this is an opportunity to see guys that played, as well as anybody in the league toward the end of last year. Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, get to see Travis Kelce, this Chiefs defense that is always a test. So it will not be an easy game by any means, but you want to go earn it, right?
Yeah, well, you said it right there. It's not going to be an easy game. Last year, the AFC West was just ridiculous. The Chiefs were 15-2. The Chargers were 11-6. Broncos 10-7. The Raiders obviously didn't have the greatest season of 4-13, but they got better during the draft. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. And like you mentioned, typically we end the season on division opponents. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything plays out, right? Last year the Broncos were in charge of their own destiny, and they hope to be in that position again. But you never know. The football gods always like to move pieces around, and then next thing you know, like, this is probably the game to watch next year. Yeah,
for sure. And we'll find out the whole schedule here coming up, but man, it's hard to think of a more exciting matchup than this one, going to Arrowhead against a division rival.
Well, once again, Broncos Country, Denver will face KC on Christmas Day for Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. A reminder that the full schedule release will be announced May 14th. Stay tuned to our social media channels for our schedule release content, brought to you by Ticketmaster. Signing off, I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, next to our lead writer, Aric DiLalla. Make sure you visit denverbroncos.com for the latest on the Broncos 2025 schedule and more.